small amount of time, because I had my audience, and Dawn, she's the leader of our group, and she always gives us this small amount of time to put in the information. And for me, it was a great opportunity to learn the products. We sell in the insurance industry so much. And so what was very important to me was I get to meet with my group once a week. So I had an opportunity to dial into certain products and kind of go a little bit deeper. It still needs to be a short amount of time. So I try to take key points, and also whenever I would interact with my customers, I tried really hard to kind of see where their concerns were. So it was very important to me to listen to my customers on these certain product points and dial into those. And so whenever I talk to the group and I have the 60 seconds to tell them about myself, yes, I'm an insurance agent, but oh my goodness, I am actually a wealth of information in so many different lines. And it's not necessarily that I know everything, because I don't. But what I can do is guide and direct, and I can get back with them. But just kind of bringing up things in the group, like whenever we're working with entrepreneurs. So I work a lot with business policies and things that they may not even think about as a concern to them. So I would dial into our business policies. And I would talk to my business owners and I would say, did you know that your policy doesn't have enough liability on it anymore because you took it out 10 years ago and your business has grown? So we might want to revisit what that looks like. So if I bring that up in the group, then that triggers questions. And that's the biggest thing, I think, whenever you have that 7 seconds, it's about making it about the other person. Like, how is it that you can dial into their need? And how, because if you don't, people want to be helped. People have things that they need help with. So they may not even know it. And that's the biggest thing with me. That's what I try to dial into, is things that they may not even know that they need help with. So like I said, Jennifer saw that in me, and I didn't see it, but it was just something that I really wanted to help the group understand about insurance. Insurance is really important. It's a passion of mine. I think mainly because I have this, God has given me this strength of empathy for people. And I don't like to see people hurting or need help and nobody's willing to help them. So when I got into insurance, the first thing I saw was, and at no fault of their own, but agents who were so concerned about the next sale or the next policy that they weren't able to dig deep into what really the main concern of the customer is. So whenever I meet people, and I mean, basically, yes, I'm introducing myself as their risk agent. Basically, that's what I'm in. I'm in the industry of risk. Can I shield your risk? Basically, is what I'm asking my customers. But when they're talking to me, I'm learning more about how I can dial into their needs. So basically, that's kind of the start of it. And I know I've talked a lot, and we only have 7 seconds to introduce ourselves, really, like Jennifer said, but that's kind of why that was important to me. Dialing into the product, because of the thousands of products we offer, being knowledgeable enough to kind of give an umbrella about certain products. So I think that's what Jennifer saw in me. Again, it wasn't anything that I knew that was important. I just knew I care about people, and I want people to know that these specific things about insurance policies that they may not know. So I'm going to actually open it up for questions. Does anybody have questions about what I've said so far?
Shoot, I mute myself, then I say I'm not going to say anything. One of the things that when I was first listening to Brynn, the first couple of weeks, I think the first week and maybe she'll talk more about this, how you kind of zero in on something. We kind of joked with Jenny with my energy shift the other day, I was making light of it as she's standing behind somebody in the grocery store and they're buying potato chips. And she's saying something like, are you really going to eat those chips? Now, that's not really going to attract somebody to your cause. But the idea was that Brynn kind of said something. No, she said something that, what did you say? I think the first week you talked about renters.
Yes.
I'm using Jenny's as an example. You got to watch what you're saying so you're not offending anybody, but you want to make sure, because Jenny could easily say, are you sure you want to eat all that crap, whatever it is, but she then came up with another way to kind of work that same thing in, and she can share that if she wants to share that. But Brynn said, how many of you have or know somebody, I think it was how you said it, who has somebody that's going off to college? Who knows somebody that's going to live in a dorm room?
Right.
And it was like, holy crap, how many of us know somebody or maybe have their kids going off to, and no insurance. I would have never said that. I thought I was a pretty good insurance agent. But so I guess to say, when that was one of the things that she said, and then I think the next week, or the next week or so after, then she said something about how many of you are doing like farmers markets, and and you're thinking, well, I don't, but my best friend, or something like that. And it started making, and you were talking about having liability insurance for that. Now we all know that well, maybe we don't, but Brynn sells, like she said, all kinds of stuff, but she just honed in on that one little thing. And even though you may think, well, there's not that many people who have farmers market, but zeroing in, you catch more, you actually get more from being more specific, I think is kind of the way. So I don't know if that helps anybody with questions that you might have, but maybe Brynn will say more. I just would say right now that I just saw that. So I didn't see something that wasn't there. I really felt like I was seeing that Brynn had that kind of down, like she knew she didn't have to dump. She does auto and home and umbrella and life. And, if somebody heard that in the first 7 seconds, wouldn't they kind of just like, oh my gosh, jump off the board. I'm going to jump, I'm jumping ship. I can't handle, so anyway.
Yes. And thank you for bringing that up, because that was going to be my next segment, was by, in those first 7 seconds when I introduced myself as an agent. Well, Jennifer, even saying that, it was her coming back to me and saying, thank you for asking those questions, or thank you for focusing on just one specific thing, because if you every week go through all your stuff, it gets overwhelming, it can get overwhelming. So that started making me think, yes, when I introduce myself, hi, my name is Brynn Cochran, or whenever I run into somebody, I always want to ask them, or I want to get them talking about themselves so I can listen for things like, oh, I have a niece that's going off to college, or I'm about ready to lose my health insurance, or or I'm shopping around for, business insurance, or does anybody know anything about this, and just trying to like those trigger words where you can actually listen to somebody and be able to, well, hey, yes, actually, I hear you have a niece that's going off to college. Do you know that it's important for her to have protection on her contents whenever she's in college? And did you know that there's actually coverages that are very, very inexpensive that you can put on that stuff? And then it goes with her. So she's in her car, it's with her. So somebody breaks into her car, that's covered. And so it's kind of being top of mind. Yes, I'm kind of always in business mode, but it's also you're being helpful too. So that was kind of what I was, when Jennifer was talking about how important it is to dial into those certain things, getting to know the need of the person, listening to them. Hi, my name is Brynn Cochran. I'm a shelter insurance agent. You don't always get that opportunity to introduce yourself as an insurance agent. But if you hear those key words about your industry that you're able to dial into, that's kind of made me want to study up on my products a little bit more, and be able to in a very short amount of time say, hey, here's my card. You know, if your niece needs insurance, just give her my card or whatnot. So yes.
I do have a question though, and I'm not sure if that was a question moment. Sorry, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So my thought is, we're all saying that, but how do you guys, maybe to everybody, but how, you know, Brynn has, like I said, I've listened a couple of weeks at least. It's probably been a couple more than just a couple of weeks. So come up with that one little thing. Hey, who do you know that's moving into college or has a child? But how do you ask the question of them? How do you still get your thing out, but still ask them a question to get them talking? I mean, do you know what I mean? I think I've used the example of Tim Garrity, who's one of our leaders in our Westfield group. And it took me probably 2 or 3 months before I really knew what he sold, because he never talked about himself ever. I mean, he just didn't. I knew at some point he said, I'm with one Midwest Financial or something. And I was like, okay, now I know what he does, but he never really threw that out there. I mean, does anybody here, because I know that I'll talk to, and I think Angie's done it a couple times. Nicole, I don't know if maybe Claire has, but I'll ask you how you're doing. And I'm doing fantabulous. I'm doing freaking awesome, you know. And that was Angie today did a presentation on what the different ways that you can share your 30-second. And that was one of it, right? Was coming back or asking somebody how if somebody asks you, that's a way to share your 7-second or your 30-second. But do you ask people? Is that part of your thing to get them talking? How do you get people talking? And that's maybe a weird question, but how do you get people talking?
I think it's a great question. And I think for me, it's about how are you doing, or what brings you in here today, or you know, just general questions, making it about that person, completely about that person, not about you at all. Some people, you know, they'll say, I'm fine, how are you? You know, and they'll pull it back on you. But just those open-ended questions that completely focuses on the other person. And I think that's the hardest part about those elevator pitches, or the 7 to 60 seconds that you have to introduce yourself with people, or trying to put everything in such a short amount of time, but it's knowing your audience.
Yes.
You're talking about, because when you're talking in the grocery store, you're going to have a lot less time if somebody comes into your office, or even like whenever you're on the phone, or if you're walking through a lobby and you run into somebody. It's completely thinking about that other person. How are you? What brings you here today? Have you thought about this? You know, and just kind of making it open-ended and just listen. And I think listening is huge. I think so often people are waiting in their head for the next sentence and not actually listening. And that's what I meant whenever I said, like, studying your product, knowing it well enough for key words.
Yeah.
So like whenever people are talking, listening to them and picking up on those words of concern, or I would love to know more about this, or I'd love to know more about that. Or like I said, you hear them, we have people going off to college, or we're moving. That's it. Like we're moving, or my mom's looking for a reverse mortgage, like just like little things like that. So that's another thing, is studying the people within my networking group, making sure that I know their contact information. So if I'm talking to one of my insureds and they're talking about getting a reverse mortgage or refinancing, I know Robert, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was actually just thinking, Claire, Angie, you guys, I mean, you may not all know Brynn, or Jen may not know Brynn, but I mean, maybe it would be kind of interesting, because I know that Angie has her little 10-second. But I know I'm always thinking, you know, she could probably tell you here. What is yours? Can you share that with us? Because it does kind of grab
you. 7 to 10 words to kind of introduce what you do in this kind of setting, but being memorable and making people want to come back and hear more.
Right.
Mine is new and I'm still working out the kinks, but I am Angie McHale, and I help middle-aged men rejuvenate their skin. And you probably have never heard a skincare person talk about middle-aged men. But let me tell you a story. I was in a networking group, and one of my friends in the networking group, who's male, said, "Hey, Angie, before we get started, do you all have a men's skincare line?" And it got me thinking how we think in terms of men and women's skin, but really all our skin is the same. We're all human beings, and it's more skin type. So we went down that path, and he became my first legitimate regimen user who is male. And he shared that he was 60. So he was like, maybe it's time to start doing something with this. And he had just gone through treatment for skin cancer. So he was very cautious about the kind of ingredients that he was putting on his skin. Now, at that point, my go-to is process, which is what you don't want to do. I want to tell you all about how Ever Skincare is clean, but it's also clinically tested, blah, blah, blah. Andy Wigg is the author of a book called The Elevator Pitch, and all of these techniques that I've been sharing with people came from him. And I was on a webinar with him actually last week and said, all right, I got it. I got the 7 to 10 words, but then what do I do? And he says, share a story. Talk about why men and women. Now, I have one male customer and about 100 female customers. So eventually we're going to get there. But didn't that make you go, men and skincare? I want to know more about this. And when you only have a short time, then they'll remember and they'll want to reach back out to you.
I've actually heard it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I need to craft the not rambling afterwards. But that's an example from the conversations that a networking group and I have been in over the last 4 weeks. And that's what came out of it. And it gets a lot of reaction. I just don't know how to shut it down, close it down, and stop talking.
Yeah. So I've heard it a number of times, and I still kind of giggle every time she says it, because I'm thinking my mind's going down the gutter before she's done. I'm sorry, but that's the honest truth when she's saying it. But honestly, that would potentially grab all of our, a lot of female and men probably. It's like, well, I want to know more about that. That's kind of cool. And I don't know, Brynn, I just think you do a really good job. You don't give yourself enough credit for it, but I would love with the people who are on here to, I don't know if that was part of your plan, but it would be interesting to see using Angie's idea or Brynn's idea or both, kind of combination. It would be interesting to give people, I feel like I was trying to say something last week on Jenny, saying you're just standing there behind somebody buying these potato chips who shouldn't have potato chips. And you're saying, are you sure you want to buy those chips? But it's funny, but Jenny then posted, not last week, but she has posted that she makes really good potato chips that you make yourself, right? So it could be just a really, I don't know. I felt kind of like, yeah, that's really stupid when I said it last week. But you could, if you don't have the right way of saying something, you could actually potentially insult somebody or say it the wrong way or something. So what?
In that situation, like, we don't often get a chance, like Brynn said, in the grocery store line to really exchange contact information. Like, who knows if they want what we have. But in that case, Jen, I would put that recipe or a number of recipes for alternatives to junk food and have it with your contact information. And when you see somebody and you can talk about something else first, as long as they seem friendly, just say, I see you like Lay's potato chips too. I'm a sucker for them, but I actually have a really cool recipe that's healthier. If you're interested, I have it on a card. Do you want to take it with you? Then she has your
That's a
contact
good
information. You provided value in the health and wellness, that kind of thing. That's what I would do. I ever since I started with skincare 7 years ago, I've always heard carry little samples around with you all the time, hand them out, blah, blah, blah. I've never been able to master that. I can talk to people in the grocery aisle all day long about all kinds of stuff, and it's not icky and weird. And when it comes to the sample part, I'm just like, because they always say you want to make sure you get their contact info because they're probably not going to follow up with you. It takes you following up with them. And that's the part that's kind of like, here, we put your number in my phone or find me on Facebook or whatever. And I've never mastered that, but I feel like the recipe thing would be more helpful and of value with your contact information on there than a skincare sample, quite frankly. Because then going, what does she think I look old?
Yeah. Right. Well, and I didn't mean to put Jenny on the spot, but I just keep thinking about that, saying that last week. I thought, oh, that was probably stupid. But Brynn, I don't know what, I'm sure you have more information, but I would love to know what each person kind of their seven. Don't ask me because I'm still trying to figure out my marketing stuff, but it would be interesting to,
I actually did work on mine because of this. And I think I've dialed mine in because basically what I was trying to do is take insurance out of it because insurance is so I'll start. I would love to hear everybody's but I was trying to take insurance out of mine because whenever people hear the word insurance, they shut down. So it would be, hi, my name is Brynn. Can I talk to you about shielding your risk? It's just something that they're like, huh? Because insurance is all about risk. I'm in the risk business. Maybe you'll need me, maybe you won't, but in some cases you have to have me. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'm always.
Yeah, I was going to say, so because I've been in networking a long time and know a lot of insurance people, risk and insurance are the same thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the general population, risk may not scream insurance, but because of networking, it does for me. But I would say I would use the word risky. I would stand up and say, how risky are you? If such and such happened, what is the risk to your family? Like something like that. It's just catching. And you may want to say, if you're not sure, I'd love to talk to you. And in the end, the moderators of these things want you to say your name and your company, and it's going to come out that's your insurance. And but at least it's a way for them to remember you over all the other insurance agents that say I manage risk.
Right. And risky business. Oh, risky. Yeah. I mean, it's just such a, they'll have something to tie. I like the risky, adding that one letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say in a 7-second thing to catch people's attention? I mean, what do you do? I mean, I know you're an insurance agent, and I know that's a challenge because I was in insurance for, however long I said. I try to forget it, honestly. I'm just happy that there's people like you doing it. But that is really tough.
I think it's easier for more unique businesses. But Jennifer, you're like, I would ask a question about relationships.
Oh, sure.
That's what all three of the things you do, you're a relationship coach, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You could say, how are the relationships in your life? And they may think that you're a marriage counselor or whatever.
Right.
But to make them think without saying I'm a coach, how are your relationships? Have you ever really thought, how are your personal relationships? How are your business relationships? If you had a way to strengthen them that's seamless and super easy, would you want to hear about it? I'm Jennifer Johnson. Come and meet me afterwards.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, thank you. I really would. Oh, I think Louisa has her hand up, I think. Yay, Louisa.
Yeah. Hi. I got off the train now. My husband picked me up and we're driving home.
Glad you're here.
So yeah, like my elevator pitch, I've actually tweaked it a number of times. And now I lead with, I'll give you the pitch. It's, Louisa Maroney, founder of My Way of Eating, can be your way of eating. I specialize in helping reverse type 2 diabetes. I help people lose weight, and I help them conquer food addiction.
And who doesn't want to do those things? And that's pretty much under 10 seconds, pretty much, or under, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an example of a very unique business. So you can
Yeah.
craft that and we'll go, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Especially the diabetes, because
Yes.
there are a lot of people that suffer and struggle, and they're not very well versed in how to deal with that.
I have to say though, I wasn't leading with the reverse type 2 diabetes, but I've really tweaked that. I actually led more with the weight loss, but I'm specializing more and more now with type 2 diabetes.
Is it more common now?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, okay. That makes
And they kind of
sense.
go hand in hand, don't they? Like,
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Although you don't have to have a weight problem to not be eating properly, or there are people who are not over.
Uh-oh, we lost her. At least for a minute, we lost her. Maybe she'll jump back in here. Uh-oh. Well, Brynn, I didn't mean to, I tend to do that, but I was just, after Angie said hers, I was, everybody needs to share theirs so we
no,
can.
and I want them to. No, that's great. Like I told you, I wanted it to be interactive. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And we can learn so much by listening to people.
So, I like yours, Brynn, but I do think risky business is good.
I do too. I like just adding that why there, I think would.
And then people say, what?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Risky.
Well, and I do think you don't have in 7 seconds or 10 seconds, you don't have a lot of time to, if you're trying to get their attention, you don't have the ability to tell them a story. But I think, and it's probably like Roberts as well, but really, truly, people don't understand the value of a mortgage person or an insurance person or realtor or travel or any of these things until they hear a story where somebody didn't have somebody. Or like you, if you're, somebody maybe a life insurance policy that didn't pay out, or they talked about getting it but never did, and then the person died without any insurance, or something like that.
Or they lapsed or
something.
I get that all the time. Like I have customers that literally just thank me for not letting their policies lapse. Like, well, no, I'm not going to let that happen, but it happens all the time. And it's because of the quantity that an agent has. They're not able to do those small little reminders.
I actually absolutely hated, Jenny's leaving us. I was hoping we'd give her some instead to leave, but I absolutely hated having to remind people to pay. But I thought, you know what, if they don't pay and then they're in an accident, it's my fault. I mean, it's really their fault, but it's my fault for not reminding.
You feel responsible for that.
Yeah, I felt responsible. So I'm gonna let you take it, but I would love to hear if people would share their pitch. Now that we've heard Louisa's, that was a great one. And
Angie's was good too. Yeah, I'd say let's just go down the line. Who's next? Who wants to share?
Louisa is back on if she wanted to finish. I think she froze.
I'm fine, thank you. It's just you can pivot your message, I think, because I didn't lead with the reverse type 2, but now I do.
Yes, it's ever changing.
I'll share mine if you want. Mine is ever changing. Ever get it, Angie? Ever. So I say, hi, I'm Nicole Williams, and I love to celebrate people. Have you heard about the postcard program? That's kind of like new in our send out cards. So it kind of like gets them celebrate people maybe, and then postcard program. What's that? So, but I love how you say make it more about them. I try and listen like you do and ask them first, if I'm meeting somebody, want to ask them first and find out what they do. So I just don't
I
think
think you
quickly
could
like
add,
that.
you could add to that, you love to celebrate people. Have you heard of the postcard program? See me afterwards because I can help you celebrate other people as well. Or is that something that you would like to do, celebrate others in your life?
Oh, so like see me after and I can help you celebrate others.
Yeah, if it's on a Zoom call, just say, schedule a one-to-one with me and I'll tell you how easy it is for you to celebrate others as well.
Thank you,
So we're really wanting to, Brynn, Angie, Brynn, I think, but give them a call to action, right?
Mhm.
Don't just leave them hanging.
Yes.
Yes, because you want them to come back and ask you more, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Claire, what's yours?
I have not perfected mine. I've always just done the introduction. I'm Claire, I'm the Director of Special Events for Urban Air Adventure Parks. And then I go into details about what attractions we've had. But Angie's given me a lot of good pointers and tips. And I just need to hone down who my ideal client is right now. I feel like with everyone's business, it's so seasonal.
Mhm.
That I'm going into a new season of what is my ideal client for, for this quarter.
That's good.
When we're on, go ahead, Brynn.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think that's the hardest part about your, that pitch is that like we've said, it's ever changing and it's definitely has to do with your audience, like who you're communicating with.
I was just going to say, I think Claire said earlier in a meeting we were on that she does a lot of her live stuff in front of her urban air backdrop. And in the Zoom world, we could do that. If you look at Robert's First Home Bank, here's, Nicole and you guys all have things behind you that kind of would hint at maybe, and now that's not really your 7-second, but it does make an impression. We're kind of in a different, if you think about it, we're in a different world than we were a year and a half ago when you might be talking to somebody at a meeting and there's nothing other than you. You can do some things, creative things behind, around you, but you can't always count on that. So, I keep thinking with Claire, what is it, Claire, what does it say? They, let them, she's gone. Let them fly, I think, or something like that is their tagline for urban air. So when we were creating the Jump Starters group, the idea was, what could we do with flying or, I don't know, it's just kind of like I could see that just from that let them fly. But
I think the poster's good. You can't, in this, right where we're at right now, we can't see it as well, but she could move that over and make it like in the center and a picture of an adult bouncing on a trampoline maybe, or because I know she's trying to get like sales team building, that kind of stuff, not just kids.
Good point.
I added wine to my skincare behind me.
There you go.
That's a beautiful backdrop.
And we all saw her before it was finished, Brynn, a couple of years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, before she finished it. But Claire, is she gone? I think. Claire, what is your tagline for? Is it "Let them fly"?
Yeah. What's funny is my graphic designer just showed up and he's putting up my new banner. So I have to get off the call.
That's what we were just talking about, though. That'll be really good behind you.
Yeah. So, I'm so sorry I have to get off.
That's okay. But
Nice
that
to meet
is,
you, Claire.
if you think about that, though, that's kind of what we've got to our advantage when we're doing these virtual. We've got the ability to put the backdrop like Robert's got, or, we've got, we know that Nicole's a single mama, and there it says mom, right? It's just kind of cool to think we have those. But anyway, Brynn, keep calling on people. I'll stop talking.
I guess, Robert.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm sorry for jumping on late. I just had a few
That's
things
okay.
going on. Yeah, yeah. But I'm always about trying to figure out a 2-minute commercial for every client, but also trying to make sure it's easy to do a pitch, but you try to, when you know who your audience is, it's easy to target you, change your pitch. But my own goal is always to say, Robert Hill with First Home Bank. I'm a mortgage banker. I've been doing it for over 50 years. We do loans in all 50 states. I do a holistic approach to every client to help them understand their short and long-term goals and help them achieve those. And at the same time, you want to do a consult, but just want to just understand what your options are. Please reach out to me.
Okay. That's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Short and sweet.
But there were keywords in there. Yeah, there were keywords in there that would make somebody want to dial in and want to contact you.
Right.
Your longevity, how many states you guys represent. So
I would move holistic up to the very first sentence.
Yeah, that's exactly what I try. Sometimes you start with that because that's where the key point is holistic. Because it's really not, I'm not pushy, it's a holistic, but my whole goal is to understand what you're trying to get accomplished. And spend time doing, that's why I spend more time understanding that, because it doesn't make sense to talk about rates, anything else, when it does not, we don't understand what you're trying to get it done. But most time, every client you talk, what's your rate? What's the market like? I said, well, you don't really know anything that, but to understand that's what the market's out there in the world, train people to think that's rates and rates is it rate. I said, well, I give you a 1% rate. If it's not accomplish your goal, what good is it?
Maybe you could start with, as the general public, what do you think holistic has to do with mortgages? And just have them go. And then explain what that means. It means I'm here to help the whole situation, not just the cheapest you can find, or something along those lines. It's catching someone so they go, oh, like mine, you missed mine, Robert, I'm in skincare, but I talk about helping middle-aged men rejuvenate their skin, and everyone goes, wait, skincare for men? And it's just to capture them if they want to know more. I mean, I sell mostly to women, quite honestly, but it's a way, I do have male customers, and it's a way for them to go, I want to know more. So holistic mortgage, like holistic is food and energy, but mortgages, like that's what makes you unique to other mortgage lenders.
Right. Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, targeting that front first. I try to, and when you one-on-one, you start that, you can start the conversation differently, but with just a general pitch, that's what you say. You try to emphasize the holistic with the client.
Yeah, I love that.
So
that's good.
I don't think I've ever heard a mortgage person use the word holistic. I mean, I really don't. I think I've always heard that with like Jenny's stuff or Louisa or, maybe Angie's, or, but never with somebody who's in a business. I don't mean to say that. In more of what I think is a business kind of, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Can I steal that?
Hey, feel free. I mean, because it's really, I always tell you, if you tap into people understanding, tell me, I'm trying to understand what you're trying to get accomplished, you're not trying to sell them anything. It brings their guards down halfway, and then you allow them to talk, and allow them to, when the more you talk, you learn more about them. Allow them to express what they want to do, then you can probing questions to the client, and therefore you learn more information. Then you try to summarize what they're really trying to get accomplished. And you say, that sounds like what they say, yeah. So then you go, then that allow you to go to work to pull things together that make sense for them. It's easy now, you're taking your features and turning them for benefits to the client.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. All righty, let's move on. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm privy to everybody, but I think maybe Janice. I see a Janice.
I apologize, I was late.
That's okay. That's okay. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
What is your elevator pitch, Janice? I'm sorry, you came in and we didn't really repeat it, but.
Okay, mine is, I'm Janice Reese with Keller Williams Indy's home team, and I open doors for people. And the people that I'd like to open the doors for this week are people who want the lifestyle change. people who are having their first, second, or third child, they probably need a bigger house.
Love that door. You open doors for people. That's perfect.
I couldn't wait till she shared it.
That's
excited.
awesome.
I
When
know, I
she-
was gonna say the same thing. Janice, I would say the open doors thing before you say Keller Williams, though.
Mhm.
Okay.
Just because as soon as they hear real estate, they go, oh, I know a lot of real estate
Yes.
agents, but
There's only
lead
9,000
them down the
levels.
path to, what is it that she does? Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
I like it. All right, done.
Now,
That's
I know, Louisa, you had your hand up again? I can see him. I'm just not sure. Okay.
No, I was clapping.
Oh, I got Zoom lingo. That's the problem. I gotta learn this Zoom lingo. High-fiving it. Yeah, Dennis, that is, you always get our attention when you say that though. Always do.
I went through a workshop several years ago and came up with that, and now it's my tagline underneath our logo.
That's great.
Love it.
Me too.
Then by adding the, the the detail or the more specific specificity, forget it. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Good.
Yeah, and that thing I went to, she said, paint a picture in your head of the client that you want, and then talk to them. Make your pitch to that person, not to the world.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's wonderful.
It's very true. So I think about that a lot whenever, there's so many insurance agencies, but there are plenty of fish in the sea, and not every fish can go to one. So that's why there's so many different companies, there's so many different agents, because not everybody is meant for you, and it's okay to pass. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, I don't think I would be a good fit for you. So that's a great point, Janice. I like that too. Awesome. Are we going to get to hear from Dawn? I know we can't see her.
Yeah.
Beautiful smile and see it.
I'm here.
Yay.
Thank you. My introduction is generally in like 3 bullet points. So not as limited as 7 words, but I start with your relaxed adventure is my focus. I'm Dawn Evans Casey with Spa Travel. I love to help people have memorable and enjoyable travel experiences. And as a certified travel planner, I'll help take the time and stress out of your travel planning.
That's good. Yay.
A plus.
Hearing that like every week, and it's a version of that. And she just has this clear, concise way of delivering her message. And I just want to keep hearing her talk. She's just a great presenter.
Oh, thank you.
You are, and I miss your voice in our group. Dawn used to be a part of 2 different groups, and she had to whittle it down into one, so we don't get to hear her at Uptown Connectors anymore, but I agree.
I would
Yeah,
love
her
to do
voice
this.
has a smile in it.
Aw,
It
you guys
does.
I'm smiling now. You can't see me, but
You can tell.
you're making me smile.
But it definitely makes you feel like you want to go on a trip, right? So,
Yes, it does. And
who
I
wouldn't?
want her to plan it.
Right, exactly. We all want that. Yeah, good.
And I actually, thank you for sharing that, Dawn. I was actually going to say one more thing I had in my notes, that one thing that I'm working on, and I actually wanted to get everybody's kind of feedback on this, was one of my favorite commercials, believe it or not, is Liberty Mutual. I think they do a great job with Limu, Emu, and Doug. But one of the ones that they just came out with was how they're on a treadmill, and the guy in the middle, Doug asked him, did you know that Liberty Mutual, da 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 da? And he just kind of out of the blue asked him this question. The guy was like, what? And he's like, well, now you asked, and it was like, it's a way, like you ask somebody a question and they're like, huh? And he just kind of confidently assumed that he wanted to know about it. So I didn't know how. I was thinking about how can you spin that, like where you can ask somebody a question and then kind of like, and be able to go into your product, be able to explain to them something. I didn't know if anybody had any feedback, if you guys had seen that commercial, but that was very intriguing to me. And ever since I've seen it, I'm like, well, how can I use that whenever I have a quick moment, or I'm in passing, did you know that shelter offers this and this? And they're like, huh? And I'm like, well, now that you ask, I wouldn't say that, but because it's the comedy behind it, but feedback.
In the travel industry, and a lot of people do it this way. It certainly wasn't unique, and I didn't think of it, but to get people thinking about travel in a positive way, the opening is, if you could travel anywhere and time and money were no object, where would you go? And it gets people on that place where they kind of look up and daydream about their perfect trip idea, and takes them to a happy place. There aren't people who usually come back with anything negative, like, the last time I traveled and I got my flight got canceled, or, something horrible happened. It takes them to a place where they're positive and then happy to share something with you. And that's a great place for a travel agent to pick up from and say, based on what they communicate, how can I help?
Yeah.
I guess sometimes I get a little, I don't like it when somebody does that. Not that don't.
I understand. I know.
Because I guess I'm in so many networking situations, people try to, and it's usually, and there's nobody on here that's with Primerica or something, but a financial company that'll just want me to, they're just, traveling's a little different, because I wouldn't mind somebody saying, would you like to, would you like to go to whatever? I'd love to daydream for a few minutes about going somewhere. But I don't like it when somebody uses, you know what I mean? What would you say if I could tell you that, and I mean, if you do this, you're going to make this much money. I was like, come on, I don't want, travel's like unique. I don't know. So I guess, yeah, I've seen the commercial many times, Brynn, and I think it's hilarious. And he doesn't seem to even worry that he's maybe, pulling this guy into a conversation that the guy doesn't want to be on. But I completely get your question. I don't know. I think there are some industries that it might not work, and insurance might not be one of them,
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I think I have way too much self-reflection for that, because immediately I would read into the person who's probably not interested in talking to me at all. So I don't know if that would be a great pitch for me, but I didn't know if anybody else had ever thought.
Well, it sounds like
I've actually used that for the Realtor Foundation. We use that a lot. Like when the pitch is, do you know how old excuse me, do you know what the average age of a homeless person in Indianapolis is? 7.
Oh.
And then you could go into the pitch about the Realtor Foundation and how they're seeking solutions for homelessness. But that question stops everybody, and they'll stop and listen to what you have to say.
Oh my. Is there a website that you can go on to learn more about that, or to help?
It's realtorfoundation.org.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're, because like a nonprofit like that, we'd all be like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
We're all
I had no idea.
tugging at our heartstrings, I mean, the Hamilton County Harvest Food Bank talks about, how many children, it's some ungodly, it goes right along with what Janice just said, the idea that if they're homeless, more than likely they're food insecure as well. So the number is very high as far as who's food insecure. I mean, and you just blows your mind. You're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of one for real estate, but other than that, Did you know we're at an all-time listing low?
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what? I think, Brynn, you could probably pull it off, but I don't know if the average Joe could pull off the emu kind of.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
I just thought that was like a kind of a great segue. Like you said, it would work in some industries. Yeah, I don't think insurance. It's whenever I learned that people trust insurance agents about as much as they trust used car salesmen, I knew that my work was cut out for me. But I absolutely love this industry. Not necessarily for what it is, I guess, but I guess maybe I love the opportunity to help people because there are just an overwhelming amount of people who I think they want help. They just don't know how to ask for it. And it's not, it's one of those things where you just trust the people. Well, sure, yeah, that sounds great. That rate sounds great, but they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. So
when I had a phone call with Brynn right at the beginning, and she and I connected through a music job that I did, actually. It's kind of funny to think that way, but it really turned into that, and she joined us afterwards. But she said that she spends a lot of time getting to know people, and that was kind of right up my thing. That's what I do too. So I would just encourage you. I think I don't know, Brynn, I've kind of I think we kind of took over, but I think your information was very, I mean, it was spot on. Is exactly what we all need to know. And I think we've really done a lot with it this month as far as TTR networking in general. So thank you for adding to that very much. And this is recorded. So I am going to, I'll post it. It'll be in our YouTube, and I'll probably I'll send it out to everybody, even the people who did not necessarily get on. I'll share that with them. Brynn, is there a good way? Now I'm going to send out, did you put your contact information? Yes. Okay. Because I will, everybody's got to go. I will send out the Zoom information, and I would definitely say Janice and Brynn, you guys need to meet each other.
yes,
She's with her insurance. And I think, yes, and she's with Keller Williams, which isn't Keller Williams like the biggest one out there?
Yeah, we have like 200,000 agents around the world.
Okay, so I don't know, Robert, if you know Janice, but you three people need to know. I know that you and Brynn know each other, but Janice, maybe you don't know. And Janice is in our Westfield group, and so I'm always happy when people can make new connections. But I will send out the chat with all the information in it so you can dissect what you want to take out, and I'll send out the Zoom link as soon as I upload it. And thank you, Brynn. I mean, really what you shared was exactly what, I think it's like there's not necessarily one way to do it. There's all kinds of ways to do it. And you guys are the best, some of the best who do it. So thank you for being here today. And thank you, Brynn, for taking time. And hopefully there's some new connections here. And we will follow.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, guys. Everybody
Thank you so much, Brynn.
Yes,
so awesome. Wonderful to see everybody.
Yes, have a great week.
Thank
You too.
you too.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.